Hello, my name is Halie Slavens, and today I'll be going over my research study on whether or not there is a relationship between regular aerobic exercise and depression. Previous studies have concluded that there is a positive relationship between exercise and depressive symptoms. One such study in 2011 by Carrick, Labstein, and Carrick looked at the effects of exercise on depression and anxiety. During this study, they determined that not only was exercise effective when it came to lowering depressive symptoms, but it was also more cost-friendly when compared to other traditional treatment options such as antidepressant medications. This study also showed that a lack of exercise of any form was linked to higher depressive symptoms. Another study conducted in 2014 by Stanton and Rayburn used a meta-analysis approach to look at the relationship between these two variables. It concluded, after evaluating the data from 5 different randomized controlled trials, that exercise was directly correlated to depression and that this relationship was a positive one. It was positive because the higher the exercise treatment, the lower the depression scores were. For this study, I hypothesized that regular aerobic exercise positively correlates to depression. I will try to replicate past research study using self-reported survey methods. The biggest question when looking at the relationship between exercise and depression is to know how and why they would relate to each other. First, we must understand both terms and what they mean for our body. Depression is a disorder that causes sad feelings, suicidal thoughts, high fatigue, and low energy, along with many other symptoms. When we exercise, our bodies recognize this as a stress, and in order to combat against that stress, our brain releases endorphins and other proteins. These chemicals cause us to feel happy, and feeling happy aids in treating the symptoms of depression. Therefore, in general, exercise should equal less depressive symptoms. In order to accurately do this, we first need to determine what is regular aerobic exercise and how might this relate to depression. For this study, we will define regular aerobic exercise on 3 different levels: mild, moderate, and extreme. Aerobic is defined as a brisk exercise that promotes the circulation of oxygen through blood and increases the heart rate and breathing. The U.S. Department of Health and Human Services recommends that adults partake in at least 2.5 hours to 5 hours of moderate intensity aerobic exercise, or 1 hour and 15 minutes to 2 hours and 30 minutes of vigorous intensity aerobic exercise a week. We will use this standard to determine the 3 different levels: mild, moderate, and extreme, with mild being no exercise at all or less than what is recommended by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. Moderate will be what is recommended, and then obviously extreme will be anything more than what is recommended. Therefore, our definition for this study, regular aerobic exercise, is going to be equal to the moderate level. For this study, I gathered a total of 57 volunteers. There were 46 females and 11 males with a standard deviation of 13.44. The youngest participant was 18 years of age and the oldest was 66 years of age. The ethnicity of the volunteers were 45 white or Caucasian, 6 Hispanic or Latino, 2 Black or African American, 1 volunteer chose American Indian or Alaskan Native and white or Caucasian, 1 American Indian, and 2 that marked that they were both Black or African American and white or Caucasian. In order to gather these participants, I utilized both a local pool and social media, a survey that included informed consent along with VEX depression inventory, and a general exercise survey that was used to determine the volunteers' level of exercise was given either via Google Forms for the people on social media, or for the participants gathered at the local pool, they were giving an identical paper form of the survey. All of the volunteers were thanked for participating once the survey was completed. The survey was then scored in the two different sections, the depression inventory and the general survey. If it was a volunteer from the pool, they were given their scores right then and there. The data that was collected from the Google Forms was automatically exported to Excel, and then the scores from the paper surveys were added to that. Once it had all been calculated in Excel, that was then uploaded into JASP, and using the chi-square test, it was analyzed to determine if there was any correlation between the two variables. The Beck's Depression Inventory ranks each participant on a ranking scale of considered normal, mild mood disturbance, borderline clinical depression, moderate depression, severe depression, and extreme depression, with considered normal being the lowest on the scale and extreme depression being the highest on the scale. The exercise levels were mild, moderate, and extreme, with mild being the lowest on the scale and extreme being the highest on the scale. A chi-square test was used because both variables are ordinal variables, and this test is used to compare expected outcomes versus observed outcomes of two independent variables that belong to categories. For these reasons, this test best fit my study. With a significance level of p equals less than 0.05, the results of the chi-square test were x squared equals 2.958, where degrees of freedom equaled 8, and p equals 0.954. This data can be seen in figure 1 on my poster right over here. These results indicated that I failed to reject the null hypothesis, meaning that there was not a significant correlation between the two variables in my study. Figure 2 also shows the information of the data collected for the different exercise levels, along with the different depression scores. And this also is significant because it shows that there's not a significant relationship between any one level of depression with any one level of exercise, any one level of exercise as well. Although background information indicated that this study should have had different results, I can't help but wonder what confounding variables might have played a part in the hypothesis not being supported by the data. One confounding variable, and one that will need to be addressed in future studies, is the self-reporting nature of the depression and exercise survey. Both of these topics have some stigmata surrounding them that can cause someone, especially if they are self-reporting, to be untruthful when they're asked about their exercise habits or questions included on the depression inventory. I feel that future studies on this topic need to be able to observe over an extended period of time someone's actual exercise level to make sure that it's not something that was just self-reported. We can all say that we ran when we actually didn't, or that we exercised when we actually didn't. This, along with removing the stigmata surrounding depression in general, I think will help improve the accuracy of future research studies on this topic. In conclusion, while the results of my study did not support my hypothesis, past studies did conclude that exercise is related to depression and exercise decreases depressive symptoms. Thank you for your time, and I hope that you have enjoyed my presentation. Thank you.